Hello, ladies. Welcome back to the Mindset to Manifest podcast. This is episode 2, and of course, we are going to get into gratitude. Now, if you are not new to manifestation, I am sure you have heard of the role of gratitude when it comes to manifestation, and I will touch on that. But primarily, I'm going to be talking about my experience with gratitude and how it has changed my experience as a person and as a woman of faith, and then I will work that into how it has helped me to manifest with ease, how it has put peace in my life, and made it so that the manifestations that have already come into my life are being appreciated in a way where it has opened me up to feel more limitless in what is yet to come. So, first and foremost, gratitude. When we think about gratitude, I think what often comes to mind is that we are told we should be grateful, that we should be appreciative, that, our parents would often weaponize a lack of gratitude um, to shame us into changing our behavior. In other words, if we were acting a certain way, or if we were asking for something to be received, or if we didn't receive with the gratitude or the response that they expected us to, we were called ungrateful. So a lot of us, myself included, of course, have this sort of underlying narrative with gratitude where it feels conflicting. It can feel really conflicting also if you have been trained to be a humble person and you believe that humble people are not allowed to ask for more, that it is ungrateful to ask for more. And unfortunately, this is really destructive, and especially for women. Women in society, all around the world, really, we are often seen as ungrateful because we are usually in a receiver role. And feminine energy is very receptive. It's all about receiving. It's all about manifesting from a place of being. And, we are usually not the providers in our homes. We're usually not the safekeepers of our homes. And so when we do end up in a position or a dynamic, whether that is with our parents or our partners or even our older siblings, we can internalize shame for feeling like we are unhappy or unsatisfied in some aspects of our life because we're already receiving so much as we perceive it to be. And this can look like, your parents are providing your housing and they are paying for your food and all of these things, which is obviously it's their duty. That is their obligation. So we shouldn't feel bad for receiving those things. But sometimes what tends to happen is we can prevent ourselves from desiring more because we feel like we're already receiving so much. I know that this was also conditioned into me due to my mom having financial struggles. So she was able to afford rent and clothing and food for me and my siblings. However, if I needed something besides the bare minimum, besides the basics, it stressed her out. And so I was conditioned to feel like I'm not worthy of more. I'm not allowed to ask for more because that means that I'm ungrateful for what I already have. And I know not everybody relates to this with gratitude in their home, but sometimes this can happen in the workplace or in friendships or in partnerships, as I mentioned. The dynamic of you're already receiving so much, how dare you ask for more, is incredibly destructive to our ability to manifest. And that's something that I've worked on healing this year especially, is understanding that I am allowed to ask for what I desire And I'm allowed to desire more without feeling guilty, without feeling shameful, without feeling like I'm not being humble enough. And in part, I think we associate humble people with people who just don't ask for more. They just don't ask for what they want. They keep themselves small. They hold themselves to low standards. And while humility is good, modesty is good, I think sometimes we put ourselves so low that we diminish our worth. We diminish our value. And it makes us unable to receive when the opportunity arises that we can receive something that we've been desiring. And so there's this complexity, this duality when it comes to how we relate to gratitude that is directly related to our ability to manifest and to appreciate our manifestations when they come in. Because if you think about it, if you've been raised your whole life to believe that when you get extra, somebody had to work so hard and sacrifice so much just to give you that extra, that there's a little bit of guilt inside of you that says, oh, this is a lot. You had to do a lot. You sacrificed a lot. You gave so much just to give me this thing. And it really blocks our ability to be grateful. So there's an irony in this conditioning where we have finally received what we desire, but we're unable to be fully grateful because we feel guilty for the person who's given it to us. And that's conditioning that I have completely deconstructed this year because I realized, why am I feeling guilty for receiving? Why, if I give to a friend, for example, shout out to my friend Tiffany. It is her birthday this month, this week actually, and we had an amazing conversation, and she is just so inspiring to me. She is so beautiful. She is just the sweetest person. And I know that me personally, growing up, my birthdays were not really a big deal. They were never really celebrated the way that I had hoped they would be. So as an adult, I had a really conflicted relationship with my birthday. I wasn't able to receive on my birthdays. I never believed someone cared enough to plan a fun party for me. I never believed that I would get gifts that I actually liked. I never believed that someone cared enough to put the effort forth for my birthday. And so when it comes to my friends and my siblings and my loved ones, I really like to go all out for their birthdays. So it was a no-brainer for me to get her a gift card. She really likes to dress herself nicely when she attends events and concerts. And so I knew it was the perfect gift, and I felt so good giving it to her. I felt so grateful to have the privilege and the resources to give to her. And it's so funny because a lot of us, like I said, if you grew up with a childhood conditioning like mine, we're unable to believe that someone can give to us and feel good about it. There's a part of our story that says they're not giving from a happy place. They're not giving joyfully. And so now I have to feel guilty. And what I've done is reclaimed that narrative and instead said, you know what? I love to give to people. Like when my sister is in town or I go visit her, I love to buy her food. I love to cook for her. I love to give her like physical affection. She really likes hugs and snuggles. I like to make her laugh. I like to compliment her and make her feel good. And it's coming from just this genuine place of love, of appreciation. And it feels so good for me to give that I'm not even giving for her response. I'm not even giving for her to feel good. I'm giving because I feel good. And in that way, it's so funny because of course I want her to like the presents or enjoy the meal that I cooked. But mainly, I'm just that person. I see myself as a generous, giving, loving, nurturing person. And it feels so good to do that I was like, if it feels good for me to give to someone, why can't I give myself permission to believe that it feels good for other people to give to me like that? You know? And I really want you to dissect this. I want you to spend some time meditating or journaling or just having a conversation with yourself about what is my relationship with receiving, and what narratives do I have surrounding how gratitude is meant to be expressed, or if I'm even able to fully step into the feeling of gratitude in my body, or is there a lingering guilt or shame with receiving there that I need to address? Because I will say that this year, practicing gratitude in this new way of, I've always been a grateful person, but I was grateful and I felt guilty. And this year I've been practicing feeling grateful without the guilt. So that's your challenge from today's episode, is to put yourself in situations to receive without feeling bad about it. Without telling yourself that somebody had to work so hard to give to you, without making yourself feel like, because here's the other thing, because I felt guilty for receiving, what would happen is if a friend gave me something, if somebody did something nice for me, my immediate response was to return the gesture. Like, let me give back to you. Like, you did this nice thing for me, let me give back to you. And I will say that part of me is still there, kind of. However, what I've learned is if they give me 100%, I will give back 20% of what they gave me. So I'm not giving back a full 100%. Instead, I show 20% of the value of what they've given me as my form of saying thank you. And so what this can look like, let's say my husband gives me $100 to go spend on something nice for myself. I'll spend at least $20 on something I know he's wanted to get, or he's needed, or, something that will help improve his life. And in that way, that's my way of saying thank you. I appreciate that you have looked out for my needs. I appreciate that you have gone out of your way to make me feel cared for. And so I'm not negating the gift, right? If I spent the whole 100 on him, what would be the point? I wouldn't have actually received the gift he's given me. And I know it feels really awful when you give someone a gift and they don't receive it well. So by feeling guilty and by trying to gift back what he's given me, I'm actually rejecting his love. And that was the perspective that made me realize, like, I've got this gratitude thing all wrong, and no wonder I can't receive. The same thing goes for in the workplace. I had a really poor relationship with receiving money for a long time, to where I felt like, because I was getting paid what I used to consider a lot of money, I had to overwork myself. I always felt like I had to give more than I was receiving. And again, like, this goes even deeper into other childhood traumas and wounding and feeling like you have to prove yourself. But when I was a teenager, about 19, I worked at a fast food chain restaurant, and if they had somebody call out, they would call me because they knew that I would show up. If they needed someone to stay late, they would ask me because they knew I would stay late. And it didn't matter how exhausted I was. It didn't matter, like, how tired I was of, like, working all the time, because at the time I was working 2 jobs, and then I worked and went to school, and I was balancing friendships and relationships and fitness. So I was very busy. I didn't just have, like, no life and nothing worth doing besides working. Like, I was basically putting the company's needs above my own. And then payday would come, and I would feel this, like, silent resentment in me. Like, that's all I got. I worked so much and that's all I got. And it wasn't that I wasn't grateful. It's just on a soul level, I knew I was being taken advantage of. I knew that I was not able to receive well. I was not able to be fully grateful because I was resentful towards how much work I put in. But nobody was making me do that. So of course, in hindsight, now that I'm older, more experienced, and more mature, I know exactly why I felt that way. But this feeling of duality with gratitude comes up for so many of us in a lot of different ways, and it's sneaky. If we don't pay attention to it, it can really create some negative habits for us. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation about gratitude, because usually when we talk about gratitude, it's just like, yes, it's so powerful and it's so amazing and it helps you manifest, and all of that is true. But gratitude by itself will not help you manifest if gratitude comes with pain. If it comes with resentment or guilt or shame in some form, you can't fully embody gratitude because they're contradictory. So now that I've covered the difficulty that can come with gratitude, once you stop feeling guilty for receiving, once you change the narrative to actually, I deserve to receive love. I'm a human being. I am doing my best. I personally consider myself to be a kind and loving person. I'm not always behaving that way because, again, I'm not perfect. But I always try to do better. If I do become angry or stressed or frustrated and act out of that place, like, I apologize and I do what I can to correct the behavior. I will meditate more. I will get better sleep. I will hydrate better, eat better foods. I will start to take better care of myself, because when we take care of ourselves, we give better to others. So if I know all this about myself, how dare I not receive goodness from people? Like, why would I claim to love myself and then prevent myself from receiving with full gratitude? And when I became aware of the juxtaposition of my beliefs surrounding gratitude, I was like, okay, we are not living that story anymore, because this obviously isn't working. So again, since learning law of assumption and really practicing self-awareness, I have blossomed into a completely different version of myself, but mostly in the last, I would say, maybe 14 months. In the last 14 months, my focus on receiving has really allowed me to let go of resentment and guilt, and fully be grateful instead. This, of course, is a habit. It can be challenging to change at first, and you have to stick to it. You have to continue to be self-disciplined with choosing to just feel grateful. But it does work. Sorry, just sipping my tea here. um, so now that we've covered all that, gratitude, when you no longer are weighed down by the other feelings of resentment and guilt and shame and all of that, when you fully open your heart to being loved in certain ways, to receiving gifts, to receiving acts of service, to receiving kind words, to receiving physical affection, it really changes how you feel about yourself. And because it changes how you feel about yourself, you can evolve into the next level of yourself. And what I mean by this is, when I finally gave myself permission to receive and fully invite someone else to love me, it healed parts of me from childhood that felt like I wasn't worthy and deserving of receiving because of the story I carried from childhood. And because I was able to heal those parts, I actually became a more generous person. Because here's the thing, if you cannot fully receive, there's a part of you subconsciously, and I want to stress that this is subconscious, so we are not doing this to be selfish on purpose. But the subconscious will go, well, if I only have so much because nobody's giving to me, then I can't give to anybody else. And we hear this all the time, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And it's true, it's not just that you can't pour from an empty cup, it's that when you give to others, you are supposed to pour from overflow. You are supposed to feel so full and abundant that everything that flows over is what goes to other people. And I didn't understand this when I was younger, but gratitude is what gives you that feeling of, I'm so full, of course I can give to other people. And when gratitude comes with resentment, comes with guilt, you never feel like your cup is full. So that shift became my livelihood. That shift became, I am this person now. I am generous in a way I've never been able to be generous. And I was generous before, like I said. I love to be giving. But in this way, I can release and let go. I can give people money and gifts and time and energy, and I know it's going to come back to me. And I don't give because it's going to come back to me. But when you give knowing it will come back to you, you eradicate that feeling of scarcity that says, my cup isn't full. And you don't have to race to replenish because you're not pouring from your cup. Your cup is simply overflowing into the lives of other people. Now, the other thing that I changed in my perspective with gratitude is that I believe everything comes from God. Everything comes from Allah blessing us. So if I ask for money, God can give it to me through a job. God can give it to me through my husband, through my family. God can give me money that I find on the floor. God can give me a random check in the mail. He chooses to bless us however we are open and receptive to receiving, right? And some of us block ourselves off. We say, oh, my parents can never give me money because they don't have money. That's a personal belief of mine. My parents have not ever been good with money. And so when I am manifesting money, I don't expect it to come from them. I don't believe it can come from them. And when it does, it's few and far between, it's very rare, it's for special occasions, it's only if they have overflow, right? And so what I had to realize is not only when I'm receiving from other people should I be grateful towards other people, I need to understand also that it's not really those other people who are giving and providing to me. It's God who's giving and providing to me. When my husband gives me money, yes, he's the one who went to work for it. But his employer got that money from somebody else. And they got that money from somebody else. And all of this, every mechanism of the human experience is God consciousness living through us, which means ultimately if I make the statement, I'm receiving money, no matter what pathway it comes from, it's coming from God. And how dare I be ungrateful to God? You know, I think sometimes we forget that human beings are the physical manifestation of God. And so when a human being does something nice for you, you don't want to be grateful and also guilty. You should never feel guilty from receiving from God because God is infinite abundance. And so his cup runneth over and he can give us anything we could ever imagine. So if I know that it's coming from God, there's no room for this resentment. There's no room for this guilt for receiving. It suffocates that idea completely. And that was probably a more profound change in me than even just the realization that I was feeling guilty while receiving, and so I couldn't be fully grateful, but to know that when I was not able to be fully grateful, I was disgracing God. And I don't want any of you to feel shameful for doing this, because we don't know what we don't know until we become aware of it. So anyways, being able to receive, knowing that it's not a burden on that person because it's not a burden on God, opened me up to the possibility of how much more I was able to receive. It opened me up to the realization that if I want something, God will move the people where he needs to move them to fulfill my manifestation. And all God wants at the end of the day is credit. He wants credit. He wants gratitude. And he doesn't want gratitude with strings attached. He wants us to blissfully and fully and completely allow ourselves to recognize his greatness. You know, if you think about it, God is like our father and our mother. And so he provides for us and he nurtures us. And every parent, whether you're a parent yet or not, everyone understands this. When you provide and nurture someone, you want to be thanked. You want to be appreciated for that. That's not surprising by any means. I don't think anybody would be shocked to understand that perspective. And so now when I receive with an open heart. I receive without feeling guilty or bad or wrong or resentful in any way. And the other part of this is when you learn to receive this way, you also learn to trust that, okay, let's say you need $1,400 for a bill that just came up, or your car needs a repair, or you went to the doctor and now you have a medical bill, or you know, you want to go on vacation and spend that money, or you want to buy a specific electronic equipment or something like that, and it costs $1,400. Well, when you only receive 400 of that, does your mind go to, oh, this isn't enough? Or does your mind go to, yeah, I'm one step closer? And, you know, this is where we can leverage gratitude. This is where we can recognize, instead of looking at it as like cup half empty and being like, well, I still need $1,000. Where's the $1,000 going to come from? We go, wow, I just received $400. Like that brings me so much closer to my goal. Like if we take that as a sign that our manifestation is closer than ever, if we take it as a sign that like we're definitely getting our manifestation and hold on to that gratitude, the 1,000 will come before we even have time to forget how grateful we are for the 400 that came. So I've experienced I would say a flood of manifestations coming in the last 2 years. I hit my big weight loss goal. I met my specific person and we are now married. I, moved to a new city that I never knew I could love so much, but I love it. I enjoy it. I'm grateful for the home that I live in. I've completely changed my wardrobe. Obviously when you lose weight, you gotta buy new clothes. And my personality has changed a lot. I have become more mellow and relaxed and peaceful in my life. I reverted to Islam, of course, and I've met amazing, amazing coaches and mentors this year who have helped me to step into this new version of myself. I have read books and worked on projects and taken classes, and I've developed my business. I'm at almost 2,600 subscribers now, and it's only been about a year of me reopening my business after I shut it down for a year. And just the gratitude that I have for everything, every single thing. And mind you, I'm not saying that my life was perfect the past 2 years. There have been ups and downs. I am a human being. I go through my bad days. I had periods of depression. There were times where I even was so depressed, like my mind was wishing I didn't exist on this planet. And I know that that's part of my history, that's part of my old habit, and that was part of my old identity dying. But where I am today as I record this video on my phone, I am cozied up on the couch with a hot cup of tea. I've got the fireplace on and there is beautiful sunlight coming out my window. I actually just bought some of my favorite flowers. And I have been in gratitude in a way that I never have been able to embody before. And I really credit it to these changes that I've made in understanding the role of gratitude and why we need to be grateful. And the more that I allow myself to be grateful when I receive, the more that I receive. And it's really that simple. So again, going back to your homework for today's episode, I want you to journal about how you define gratitude. And have you ever had a hard time being grateful when you receive? And even when you're grateful, is there another feeling that is underlying, such as resentment or guilt or shame when you receive? Do you feel like others are giving to you because they love you and they appreciate you and they want to give to you? Or do you feel like they give out of obligation and it feels hard for them to give? Do you understand, if you do believe in a higher power, do you understand that God is trying to love you when you're being given to? And how would it feel if you rejected that love that He's trying to give to you? And do you think that that might have an effect on your ability to receive your desires in the future? So, thank you all so much for being here with me, for sharing this space, sharing this moment. I am very excited for what is to come. If you don't yet know, in 2025, I have some serious changes going on in my business. I just feel so called to open up on a new level, and of course, being part of the Confidence Club Premium membership, that is one way I am able to open up on a deeper level. I do share more about my personal life. I share more about my history, my mindset, my own traumas to empower you if you have gone through similar situations or if you are in a similar place right now, to show you that you really can change and you really can manifest the life of your dreams one day at a time, one step at a time, one belief at a time. So I really want to thank you all for getting me this far, and I hope to continue sharing with you and getting to know you and building this beautiful community of like-minded women so we can support one another and, grow closer to God and grow in our spirituality and in our health and in our relationships, because this is a really beautiful life. And the more that we can appreciate the beauty in life in both the painful times and the celebratory times, the easier it gets. And the better it gets, as Amanda Francis says. So again, thank you so much. And I hope to see you in my next video. So take care and stay stellar. Love you.